Have you lost the connection with your higher self? Are you noticing the dis-ease of the outside world? It's time to reconnect with nature and each other and raise our consciousness, vibration, and frequency. Together we can create a world of peace and abundance. It's Spiritual Revolution Radio with your host, Dr. Will Miller.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spiritual Revolution Radio, where me and my guests explore new ways of raising our consciousness, vibration, and frequency. Hey, today I got a very special guest. I'm excited to introduce her. Her name is Marilynn Hughes, and Marilynn is a mystic, author, out-of-body traveler, founder of the Out-of-Body Travel Foundation, and she's written over 100 books, 40 magazines, has recorded over 18 CDs, all about out-of-body travel and comparative religious mysticism. So I'm so excited to have her on the show. I got a hold of her just a few days ago, and she's so kind to join us today. Just a couple other things I want to just mention about her, because it's just, I think we have such a great person here today for our audience. She's actually been teaching out-of-body travel and mysticism since about 1987, so we have a lot of experience coming our way. She's appeared on innumerable radio shows. She's been on TV and in film, and she's had thousands of out-of-body experiences. And Marilynn, thank you for coming, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Will. Great to be here with you.
Well, you know, maybe we can start so our audience knows off by just kind of telling us how you got into researching and experiencing out-of-body travel. Kind of give us the overview real quick, if you would, please.
Well, you know, it started a long time ago, as you can imagine, going back to 1987. So a good 30-something years ago. So, you know, that's when I officially began. But the inklings of the journey began when I was about 9 years old. And I had a profound out-of-body experience, which gave me the portending, the journey to come, so to speak. You know, I had this amazing vision type experience where the clouds were billowing before me and they parted to reveal these marble steps which led up to what appeared to be like the throne of God. There were angels on both sides of that staircase, and I was you know, beckoned to come forward. And I was, you know, shown many, many things in that experience. And it was really beautiful and profound. And a lot of things were shown to me. But, you know, just for the short version, I was led to know that this experience was going to come back to me later, and that it was going to have purpose. And so when I was 22, which is a good 33 years ago now, I began to have spontaneous out-of-body experiences, started journaling them, and ironically, in the out-of-body experiences that I was having, I would receive a great deal of instruction about what I needed to study and the steps I needed to take to continue moving forward in the practices that I was learning to master over time.
How did you receive that instruction, just out of curiosity, that you were, as you were out of body?
Well, you know, when you first have out-of-body experiences, you start out with some of the basic things that people talk about, you know, looking at your body from below, learning how to go through walls, windows, doors, traveling the astral plane. But you very quickly move to multidimensional travel. And as you do this, you also begin to meet with spiritual teachers, spiritual guardians, and you start going to different types of realms. You travel through a myriad of different types of corridors into different types of spheres of existence. And it is when you are doing these things that you are then entering into spaces where, through the instruction usually of some type of spiritual teacher, but also of the realm itself. So where you are taken is also part of the teaching. you are being instructed by this spiritual master, so to speak. So it can be anything from a Native American master to a Christian personification, a saint, or Christ himself. Some people have that as well. In my journeys, it began with a particular spiritual teacher named Emmanuel. It progressed to a teacher by the name of Kutahe. Then it moved on to the grandfather. And, with every spiritual embodiment of knowledge that we take upon ourselves, which, as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, wanting to expand our vibration, because remember, knowledge is vibration. So these embodiments of knowledge are vibration. So when we take that vibration in, we're ready to move to the next level of learning. We're going to be taken to a new type of spiritual teacher who will take us to the next level. So throughout our experiences in life, we may have many teachers in the mystical spheres, and we will be taken to many, many, many mansions in the heavenly worlds, in the middle worlds, in the borderlands, in the lower worlds, and even in the hells, to learn the things that we have to learn as a soul. And so that is just an overview of how our education commences in the out-of-body travel state.
Boy, that's an awesome overview. I'm a novice actually to out-of-body experience. I really didn't start researching until about 5-6 months ago, and I'm very fascinated with it. And I haven't learned to do it very well myself. Like I said, I'm a novice, so I'm probably asking you questions that other novices that are listening to us would love to hear. I want to get into your Redemption series of books. Before we do, if maybe you could just answer another question I think our audience would really be interested in is do you
Absolutely.
out-of-body experiences? As I've been researching, it really seems like it's something that everybody can learn to do, and it's something we all should be doing as far as our spiritual growth goes. Can you maybe just comment on that a little bit, how hard it is, how long it takes you, those kinds of things?
Well, I look at out-of-body travel as a tool. Out-of-body travel itself is not the truth, it is a tool, but it is a tool that brings us to the truth. And so utilizing out-of-body travel for that purpose as the tool that makes it possible for us to achieve the learning of greater truths is profoundly helpful in the spiritual journey. So yes, it is extremely helpful. Why is it helpful? Well, because what you are doing, and this is hard to understand before you experience it, but I'll try to make it as clear as I can. When you enter into these spiritual and mystical spheres, you enter into a realm of what I call energetic truth. And this is where we are informed regarding the energetic truth about our own soul and about reality around us. And so what happens is a huge and very rapid acceleration of our ability to progress, because we don't have to go through the reasoning process of, well, is that true? And why is it true? And all of these things, because we experience what is true energetically. And we immediately and very quickly understand all of that. Near-death experiencers talk about entering into the mysteries of God, entering into the unconditional love of God. This is a mechanism of that, where we are accelerating the path because we are directly experiencing the truth. And so we are avoiding the more lengthy process, which many of us take in our conscious waking life, where we kind of muddle through and we don't get as much done in terms of getting right to the point of, okay, why am I here? What kinds of issues brought me to incarnate into this realm at this time? What issues do I need to overcome, and exactly what type of vibrational thrust do I have to achieve in order to accomplish that? But you will learn that in the out-of-body travel experience. They will show you exactly what you need to do in order to progress and actually evaluate and move and then graduate from this realm. So it's a real progression, a real acceleration of our spiritual progress in this lifetime. So yes, it is absolutely good. Now, in the sense of should everyone do it? A lot of people, and most people absolutely can learn how to do this. Some of it is not as much learned as it is allowed to enter. And you can learn a lot about that at my website at outofbodytravel.org, where, it's all about the allowing the vibration. It's allowing the vibration of how this can come about. Many people find and report that when they read, like for instance, The Mysteries of the Redemption, which is in a different series of books, it will bring about spontaneous experiences. The reason for that is because it programs certain aspects of the spirit to open up to that type of experience. But I also have a whole slew of books on the how-tos and going through the entire mysteries process of that. Some people, it might not be good for, but for most people, it is an excellent thing for people to utilize. Now, for who it might not be good for, it would be for people who have had problems with negative entities or anything having to do with spiritual warfare, exorcism, or anything like that in the past. Okay. They have a sensitivity where out-of-body travel is not good for them. So there are exceptions, and we want to keep that in mind. But for most people, this is an excellent tool for self-discovery and for spiritual progress. And so, yes, absolutely.
I love the way you explain that. I mean, we're in our physical 3D state that we're in, this realm that we're in, we're stuck in this linear time space. And as you go out of body, that space time, or time space actually doesn't come into play like it does in this physical realm. And I have been to your website, outofbodytravel.org, and you have tons of information on this. And I was looking at some of your how-tos and the information, and it's all downloadable free for the most part. It's awesome. So thank you.
Yes, you're welcome, and thank you for, all of our books are downloadable for free, and I also have music that I wrote that I received in the out-of-body travel states that's downloadable for free, and some artwork as well of certain things I've seen, all available, and tons of interviews and a course of study for people that are interested in that. And we have a lot of seminars that we're doing on the initiations into the mysteries, the rites of passage. So taking people into the deeper and deeper diving, into the spiritual path
into the esoteric kind of realm. Oh.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
That's right down my alley. I like that. So.
Yeah.
Well, before these shows go so fast when we start talking, but I do want to get into your redemption series of books. Can you tell me?
Sure.
I know it's a series of books. The first book is the Limb of the Redemption. Can you just tell me a little bit about that first book?
Well, the Limb of the Redemption is a book which delves into the afterlife experience, and it takes the reader through not just the afterlife experience as it occurs like moments after death, but months, years after death. What happens to us as we are progressing through the afterlife adventure? What are the things that we are learning and moving through? What does this do for us? It helps us to understand very quickly and identify things that we could be quickening, so to speak, while we are still alive. It helps us to see, oh, wow, I see that in myself as well. Every time we have an out-of-body experience, there's something that we are shown, whether it's about another soul or about our own, that we can identify with in one way, shape, or form that instructs us in something that we can improve upon in our own journey. And so we go through this process. We learn about what are souls experiencing in the afterlife process. We learn about what the prayer for the dead is all about. I included the book that I also wrote, The Western Book of the Dead, in that book, The Limb of the Redemption, which is all of these texts that have to do with the taking in and really incorporating into our life the practice of praying for the sick, praying for the dead, praying for one another as we move through these spiritual transformations that we all go through. We learn very quickly in the out-of-body experiences and states that creation always gives back to creation. And one of the ways that we give back to creation is through prayer. And so the Limb of the Redemption is a great deal of focus on how we help one another by assisting in one another's redemption, so to speak. You know, and when you go to volume 2, it's the Christ of the Redemption. And this one goes deeper into mystical theology. And so we explore the works of Dionysius and Jacob Boehme, along with the mystical experiences and out-of-body experiences that I was having. And we are teaching the reader how to speak the mystical language. And, you know, so there are some mystical writers like Dionysius and Boehme that many people have trouble understanding. And so what we're doing is we're taking the traveler through this and teaching them the language, showing them that they too can understand what they're saying, and that by understanding what they're saying, they can take these elements of evolutionary thrust and bring it into their own soul and into their own construct. And that we are now in the Christ of the Redemption, taking the soul from the spiritual warfare of the ground to this higher thrust above the ground, taking the soul to enter into what I call the Pure Lands, which ironically is the Pure Lands of Buddhism. But in the mystical spheres, there is a true place called the Pure Lands, where all the masters of all the traditions reside. It's a beautiful planet where there are 2 suns and 4 moons, and all of the masters work with one another to discuss their ways of assisting in the redemption of souls in the worlds of the below. And the book that I am almost finished with now, which is the 3rd and final installment of the Redemption series, is The Lord of the Redemption, which is going deeply into some ancient sacred texts from Mahayana and Theravadan Buddhism, as well as Protestant and Catholic Christianity, and Hinduism and Sufism, which shows us the recitation of the holy names and the secret of salvation history coming together in these ancient sacred texts.
So I'm excited, actually. I haven't read your books, I'm sorry, but as I was researching them and for our interview, I've gotten very interested in what is in the books. And I want to let people know, you know, as they go to your website, as they start looking at these books, you know, a lot of the things you talk about, you know, I'm an esoteric minister, so I kind of understand what you're talking about. But I know a lot of our listeners, to them, this is new, right? And they're having to learn it. But what I can see, the little I've done on the research, these are readable books. Would you agree?
Yes.
What do you hope your readers kind of take away from this series of books, this trilogy you've written, if you will?
Well, this particular trilogy, I think, is intended to take my readers a bit deeper, you know. You'll find when you go to the site at outofbodytravel.org that there is a lot of material for people to go from wherever you are. So whether you're a beginner or anywhere in between, and you can always pop me an email. My email's right at the site, and ask me where you think you should begin. But this is going to help people to go from the out-of-body travel experience into the deeper esoteric, like just exactly what you were just saying, and understand the thread between mysticism and out-of-body travel, and how all of these things weave and interweave and mingle with one another, and the congruities between the mystics from throughout our world, but not just our world, from all worlds. This is what is so exciting. But this is, so you start with understanding the afterlife journey, learning mystical language, and then you are understanding what is the secret of salvation as revealed in these ancient sacred texts that is congruent within all these traditions when you look at what has been left behind in these words, and you will be astonished when you see what I found there. At least I was, and I think other people will be too.
I think so too. So if a new person coming to your site that's listening to our show today, kind of help them know where to start. Tell them this is, this is where you should begin, if you will.
Start with Come to Wisdom's Door and the Mysteries of the Redemption. And there's also a little devotional book called Astral Projection Made Easy, which you can use that helps you to do your daily practice towards out-of-body travel. Start watching the interviews, listening to different interviews. There's a lot of, there's a couple of documentaries. There's vignettes and musings on the site, lots of video material for you to watch. And that's where you begin. What we have found over the time, many years, because we were founded in 2003 now, so we've been around a bit, is that many people start having spontaneous experiences as they're reading Come to Wisdom's Door and the Mysteries of the Redemption. Ironically, I was told that would happen when I wrote that book, but it's nice to see it actually, come to pass the way it was shared with me. And the reason for that is because it opens up that inner eye, so to speak. It makes it possible for the spirit. And so it opens the door. So a lot of people find that starts to happen. You'll find in the how-to section, you can just follow those books in sequence and go deeper and deeper into the mysteries. You start out with the basics of how to have out-of-body experiences, then you go into the encyclopedic journey into the mystical terms, and then it's going to go into much, much more, including the alchemical journeys and, the enclosed gardens of God and much, much more. So it gets much deeper. But yeah, we have forums and stuff, so you can talk to other people who might be interested in talking with you about your journey as well.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. Really, your site, I think, is set up to where somebody can really take the journey if that's what they're interested in doing, and fairly quickly start to explore the astral plane, and by reading, like you said, a couple of just of the books that are there, they can move along fairly quickly into delving deeper and deeper. We got about a minute and a half left. In that minute and a half, just kind of tell us, kind of leave us with something. We're kind of in a crazy world right now. Kind of tell us what you think would help our listeners the most in what you do.
Well, one thing to remember right now in our crazy world is that we choose to be in heaven, we choose it. It's not a place, it's a state of mind. We can be in it right now if we choose it, for one. But we all are, entering into an interesting period of time in human history. Ironically, out-of-body travel is even more important now because a lot of people are receiving a lot of direction through mystical and out-of-body experiences to help us through whatever this period of time will bring. Yeah. And so this only becomes more helpful to us because it's helpful not just to the spiritual development, but it also gives us guidance as to how to walk this path in the earth below at this time. So it's going to be a difficult transition that we're all going through, but we can make it by understanding and completely holding ourselves in the foundation of the spirit as we walk through it. Yeah. And this is how we do it, by making sure that we are engaging the key, and the key being out-of-body travel, yeah. which takes us to where the mysteries are.
Excellent. One more time, just where do we get you?
Outofbodytravel.org.
Awesome. Thank
This
you,
has
everyone,
been
for the
Spiritual
coming to the
Revolution
radio.
Radio with Dr. Will Miller. For more information or to be a guest, please visit lifebydesign.institute. Join us next week for another edition of Spiritual Revolution Radio with your host, Dr. Will Miller. This has been a production from a podcast studio.